The president's speech scheduled for 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And one Republican lawmaker says he fully expects some kind of protest from Democrats coinciding with the president's speech. Perhaps Mr. Trump will talk about tariffs tonight. As of today, he has slapped additional tariffs on Canada, China, and Mexico, 25% levies on goods from Canada and Mexico, an additional 10% on Chinese imports. China and Canada promise to respond in kind. The president hitting the pause button on U.S. military aid to Ukraine. He says he's interested in just one thing, ending the bloodshed in Ukraine. He says he wants negotiations, not endless war. On Wall Street, the Dow futures are down 147 points. More details at srnnews.com.
If you're 65 or older, you know this. Seeing your healthcare costs go up and up is frustrating. And maybe you were just notified that your Medicare costs are increasing again, or you're just tired of the massive deductibles. Well, here's some good news. There's a program that can really help with this. It's MediShare 65 Plus. It's an affordable, reliable alternative. You can choose any Medicare provider. You get telehealth access anytime you need it. And MediShare 65 Plus is a low-cost option for those with Medicare Parts A and B, and it fills in the gaps where Medicare stops. MediShare is a Christian healthcare community that aligns with your faith. People actually pray for you. They encourage you. And it's proven, too. It's been going strong for over 30 years now. So call now. You can get one low monthly price for up to 10 years. You're not stuck with increasing costs. You can do something about this today. Call MediShare 65 Plus. Find out how much you can save. Call 833-SHARE-55. That's 833-SHARE 55. 833-SHARE-55.
Here is the latest news and information that impacts you. I'm Derek White. Hutchinson Correctional Facility announced a resident's death on March 1st. Lamone Weeb, age 57, was found unresponsive in his cell in the morning. Staff performed life-saving measures but were unsuccessful in saving Weeb. The facility is Kansas's third largest prison, only serving adult males with the capacity to hold just under 1,800 residents. At a special board meeting on February 27th, the Board of Education approved the employment of Julie Ziegelmeyer as the next Colby Grade School principal. Julie has over 25 years in elementary education and will begin her contract this summer. U.S. Senator Roger Marshall held a town hall meeting on Saturday at the Logan County Hospital in Oakley. Marshall answered questions for 45 minutes but ran into opposition from a crowd that his camp claims was sabotaged by Democratic operatives. Marshall canceled a planned interview with NWKS Radio scheduled for Monday after the event and has declined to comment on the town hall meeting as well. Kansas held high school wrestling state championships this weekend, and the Hoxie Indians brought home another state title with boys 3-2-1A, followed by Norton in second place and Phillipsburg in third. Hoxie had 4 state champions in Edson Moreno at 150 pounds, Duncan Bell at 165 pounds, Edson Nicholson at 175 pounds, and Sam Watkins at 190 pounds. Duncan's little sister Josie Bell also won a state title for the Indians at 125 pounds. Today and tomorrow, the Colby Community College will be conducting a blood drive at the Colby Columbian Club at 415 North Sterling from 12 to 6 p.m. today, and then tomorrow 7:45 to 1:30 p.m. You can schedule your appointment by visiting redcrossblood.org. Keisha has postponed all our region's sub-state basketball games scheduled for today, March 4th. The Kid Win regional competition, originally scheduled for today in Colby, has been postponed to March 10th due to incoming weather. For more information on this and other stories, visit nwksradio.net.
Rocket 1025.
With your updated forecast, I'm staff meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Weatherology Weather Center. A high wind warning continues until midnight tonight. A winter weather advisory continues until midnight tonight. Mixed precipitation likely today, otherwise cloudy skies expected. Daytime highs approaching 38. Winds out of the north, 30 to 40 miles per hour. Chance for snow tonight, lows dip down to about 21, clear skies. Bright sunshine expected tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 45. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Thursday, with daytime highs approaching 55. 42, a slight chance for snow changing to rain showers Friday. 1 to 2 inches of snow today. Get up to the minute weather updates from the Weatherology Weather Center. I'm staff meteorologist Paul Trombley on this NWKS radio station. Right now, it's 37 degrees.
At FNB Bank, we understand the backbone of our community is our local farmers and ranchers. Whether you're growing crops, raising livestock, or investing in new equipment, we're here to help you succeed. Our agricultural loans are tailored to meet the unique needs of your farm with flexible terms from people who understand what it takes to make it in agriculture. When you partner with FNB Bank, you're working with neighbors who know the land and are invested in your success. FNB Bank, rooted in our community, growing with you. Member FDIC.
Phones nowadays can do practically anything, including feed you.
And now they cannot.
Well, that is if you download the McDonald's app. Use the McDonald's app to get deals on the food you love, including McCafe, soft drinks, fries, and so much more. Plus, keep up to date on what's trending at McDonald's with the latest promotions, events, new products, and specials. You can even order and pay from the app. So download it today and score from your local McDonald's at Burlington, Colby, Goodland, and Lamar.
Looking for big savings on a powerful new ride? Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas has you covered. Right now, drive home a 2025 Silverado 2500 with just 3.9% financing for 60 months. Need space and style? Get $1,000 customer loyalty cash on a 2024 Chevy Suburban. Or grab a 2024 GMC Sierra 2500 Pro Diesel. Originally just over $67,000, now just over $56,000 with a huge hail discount. Swing by Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland today or shop online at hurlchev.com.
New year, new projects, and new deals at Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware. Start 2025 with a bang by tackling those home improvements. Refresh your space with vibrant Benjamin Moore paint or stock up on storage totes and shelves, perfect for organizing. Lumber prices are down, making it easier to tackle your next big project. Keep warm while you grill year-round with their top-notch grills and smokers from Traeger and Weber. And don't let the snow slow you down. Check out their great selection of snowblowers from Ego and Toro. It's Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware with locations in Goodland and Colby, your partner for a productive new year.
Farmers, what do you expect from your crop insurance agent and company? Knowledge, service, peace of mind knowing you have the coverage you need for your operation? This is what you deserve and more. This is what you have with Rain and Hail Insurance and the girls at the insurance agency in Goodland. Now is the time to stop by the office to review and change your coverage before the March 15th deadline. Stop in and see Roxanne, Susan, and Judy at the insurance agency, located at 1020 Main in Goodland, or call 899-5011 for your peace of mind.
NWKS Radio presents the 34th Annual Home and Better Living Show on March 21st through the 23rd at the Colby Event Center. Get ready for a weekend full of vendors that are looking to make your home and living better. A gym full of vendors along with live demonstrations and more in the main gym of the Colby Event Center. The 64th Annual Colby Gun and Coin Show will be going on at the same time in the auxiliary gym of the Colby Event Center. Admission into the Home and Better Living Show is free, hosted by NWKS Radio.
You ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4!
It's time for the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
If you want to win in football, it all starts up front. Mass kicks ass.
And Max Gershon.
Look at their schedule, folks. They played no one, and they never do to start the year until they play Kansas. They get these Mickey Mouse wins out of their ways.
The High Plains only local sports talk show, broadcasting live on Rocket 102.5 and streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and X.
They're basically idiots.
Covering it all from the preps.
Up ahead to Blair Lennon. Lennon, the crossover, back to Cure. Hello, boom! A two-handed tomahawk flush.
To the pros.
Shotgun snap to Nix. Protection is good. Bold loads it up. He's got it. A receiver there. Franklin makes the catch. In the end zone, touchdown Denver.
The Blitz is presented by Hurl Chevrolet GMC, Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, and FNB Bank. Along with the insurance agency, the Farmer State Bank in Oakley, the Cowboy Corner Express, and Equity Bank of Hoxie, Quinter, and Grinnell.
Let's go to work.
Former Nike executive. Cooper flag with a two-hander.
Desmond Bain barrels in.
Stolen by Daniels. Ahead to Laverne. Harris goes up. Scores! At the buzzer! It's all over!
Game.
Karras Laverne.
Mayo's yet to attempt the shot. Here's a lob to Flory and a big-time jammer. AJ fakes on a three, passes out to Coit, head of the circle. Diggy stop and go, pulls up from 15. Bang! Diggy Coit with two more. What a ball game for Coit. Skinson at the top, hands off to Juan. He'll drive, hook a pass, back to Hunt. Boy, KJ was wide open. Coit for three. He hit it. Diggy Coit from downtown Houston. A 27-footer. And KU's down 2.
Now, Max's Jayhawks put up a nice fight last night. Still a little bit short down there at Houston, but that
that's the way it goes when you're taking on the Big 12 champs, which is the Houston Cougars. Man, goodness, I tell you what, that was watching the end of that game, and we'll get more on that in just a minute. There was one thing that really stood out to me about that game, and we'll get to that in just a little bit here. But good Tuesday morning, everybody. Ross Volkmer, Max Gershon with you here on I don't even know what to describe. I'm just going to call it a wet Tuesday morning. It's not really. It's snowing a little bit. But then it's raining, and then it's not raining, and then it's snowing, and then it's. I'm just going to call it wet. It's
windy.
Definitely windy.
That's very windy.
A wet and very windy Tuesday morning here on March the 4th. Wind's going to gust anywhere between, anywhere from 40 to 50, all the way up to 70 to possibly even 80 in some spots, miles per hour today. So, as the great Curtis Duncan always said, it's a 2-hat day. Maybe a 3-hat day today. Yes, it's going to be a very windy day. One of those days where I think you possibly, if you don't really have to go anywhere, it's probably good to just hunker down.
Yeah.
Drop anchor. Drop anchor and not go anywhere at this point in time. There are plenty of closings and cancellations that are going on. Of course, nwksradio.net is the place to go to for that. No school today for Shiloh, Rollins County, St. Francis, and Goodland has announced no school today. Fort Hays Tech Northwest, no classes today. No school also for Tri-Plains, Burlington, McCook, and Wallace County. Weskin, as far as I know, on a 2-hour late start. And then the biggest thing that impacts us, which we will talk about here in just a little bit, the games for tonight have been moved to a later date. And so no basketball games tonight, once again, due to the weather we are experiencing. But yeah, we are once again currently in a blizzard warning. For those who do not know, we could see anywhere from a trace to possibly 4 inches of snow. There could be a lot more as you go further to the west into Colorado. But the biggest thing today is going to be the wind, as Max said, probably that gusts up to 75 to 80 miles per hour in some spots today. So,
well, there's also snow out east because the KC Metro is in a blizzard warning as well.
That's a producer Papa Gershon says. So we're not going to miss the storm. We're going to have our own storm there.
Interesting.
So anyway, today we got a big show ahead for you today. Full show ahead as always. Joe Tillery, our good friend from Heartland College Sports, is going to join us coming up here on our second segment to talk some basketball and some more changes to college sports, which I find this story fascinating. I don't know if you saw that story that I posted about the ACC and the vote that's going to go down today in the ACC. I'm telling you, this vote, and more than likely what will happen, will once again set up for another massive change of college athletics, and I'll explain more why later on in the show. Big time story there. We will get to KU Houston in just a little bit. There was some sub-state basketball last night. Max took part in that. Max was over in the great town of Goodland. And you had yourself an interesting night last night. You got to tell the story. It was too good not to tell.
Some Max Jones stories from Max.
Yes, Max.
That's segment 1 today. But,
take the Max from the Max.
Right.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, no, it was a wild. I mean, it wasn't that wild, but it was a chaotic night, I'll say, at the Max Jones Fieldhouse for me personally. I was calling, as I've mentioned on the show, the Weskin versus Central Christian High School for the Hutchinson radio station. So, that was the whole process, just connecting to that. And I won't get into that kind of boring stuff, but I was
there
missing
were some technical issues. Ross had to come and help him with the cable, which
Ross helped me with the cable.
We got connected. We had plenty of time.
Anyway. Yes, we were connected. Well, we had about 10 minutes before we were supposed to go into the pregame show, and Ross leaves. I have it all connected now, and it's working. And now the rim has fallen off of the hoop.
The west hoop.
Yes.
The west hoop at the Max Jones Fieldhouse, which I noticed when I came in to help Max. I noticed that they were on a ladder working on it.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what happened, but anyway, after I had left, apparently the hoop had fallen off.
I have no idea. One second it was there. The next time I was looking, it was not there. It was not there. It had been taken off. So maybe Marty can help us with that. And thanks to Marty for helping me out yesterday with setting up a table. So here's what happened is I'm sitting there and
it was not my brightest moment. I'll say that. It took me too long to realize that this was happening. But I'm sitting there, and the Goodland Cowgirls varsity team comes out and starts practicing, and I'm like, where did everyone just go? Like, there wasn't that many people there to begin with, but I was like, where did everyone just go? Like, I'm still sitting there,
buried in your notes, getting ready, prepping for the game.
Right. Because for these people, for these names I didn't know how to pronounce, and these players I had never called before, for this station I had never worked with before, and it's a different thing. It's a different kind of, it's all different. So I'm getting, and I must have missed the announcement because they had moved the game to the auxiliary gym, and it took me about 10 minutes to realize, oh my gosh, they're all in the auxiliary gym. So I go run over there. I'm like, yep, there everyone is. And I'm looking around. I'm like, all right, where am I going to set up? Because that's my next thought process. Where am I going to set up? So there's no table because the aux gym at the Max Jones Fieldhouse is smaller. There's only like 3 rows on each side. So I find Marty, I chase him down, and I'm like, hey, I need a table so I can set up in here. And there's 13 minutes before the game starts. So then Marty runs and gets me a table, and I grab just as the minimum I need to do a broadcast. I grab in my hands and I just jog over, get in the table, plug in, and had about 3 minutes to spare before the game started. So kind of erased the pregame show, but we got in there and we got it done and had a solid broadcast. It was okay. And then after I returned the cord, and Ross, I met Ross's family for the first time. Well, his kids at least, and
met my kids.
They were nice enough to feed me and give me some soup, which was great. Had a nice soup dinner with Ross last night, and great vibes over there at the Volkmer household.
Oh yeah,
and yeah. So thanks to everyone who helped me last night. Because
we're glad you were in town. What can you say?
It was a chaotic. Yeah, shout out to everyone at Goodland because it was a chaotic night, but I had a fun time doing the actual basketball game, and it was a good game. So, yeah, it was.
Yeah,
the only sad part
was
nice.
Weskin unfortunately couldn't get it done against Hutch Central Christian. They lose 63-47. That's the only tough thing.
Yes.
By the way, Coyotes end their season at 16-4. Well, I'm glad it all worked out. I know it was a little bit of a stressful time there with things changing. We can probably blame Lincoln Cure for the rim problems if I had to take a stab.
It's probably it might be true.
Probably blame Link, who probably has the problem. That's probably why the rims are getting worked on. But anyway, that they were able to, it was a beautiful day yesterday. They were able to get plenty of games in sub-state basketball. That, like I mentioned, Weskin falling to Hutch Central Christian 16-4. What just real quickly, what were just a couple of big things you took away from that game? Your mental notes.
Trey Allen was kind of, I don't know, he was a little sore throughout that game. He was kind of getting up a little gimpy, and you could tell something was bothering him throughout that game.
Hampered by injury a little bit there?
Yeah, a little bit. But there was a couple guys that were, and they really guarded him well. They would double him when he tried to drive in. And really, it was interesting because I was talking to Coach Val Reese, who it was nice to meet him face to face for the first time. And, he was telling me how, obviously he knew that this was going to be a tough matchup because of how the competition that they have played throughout the year. But it was a game that you would have kind of thought, if this was a high pace, fast scoring game, you would have kind of thought it would have favored Weskin, but it really favored Central. They were just running the floor, creating turnovers. They had a big man named, Jaden Linscheid, who was just out rebounding everyone, had a double for sure. And they were hitting more shots, but I mean, it came down to offensive rebounds, second chance points, and just really creating a lot of turnovers. So credit to them. They played up to the Weskin's pace and did a great job defensively.
Yeah. I mean, that's, once again, this is kind of the tough part about, just tournament basketball, period.
Right.
Is that your Weskin, you had a great season, and then you get into the sub-state and you're playing a team that, maybe had a record-wise had a tougher year, but they played really good competition, and also in a much bigger town. Hutchinson's a much bigger town, way bigger than Weston. and then you're going to run into these teams like that, and that's how the bracket won. You played so well to earn the number 1 seed in your region, but because of how the bracket broke down, you got stuck on the same side of your own bracket against a really good Hutch Central team.
Yeah, that's why.
Who probably, and this is no offense to Wallace County, who I think is a very good basketball team, who will probably likely be playing at state more than likely. They got to take on Wallace County. We'll see. Maybe the Wildcats can knock them out. But once again, it's the level of competition that they play every single week there at Hutch Central Christian. that these teams out here maybe don't get every single game.
And I wonder what the difference, what the tiebreaker was, if it was maybe a coin flip that I know we talked about a couple times between, the difference of them getting the 8 or the 9 or the 8 or the 7.
Yep.
Because that could have changed a lot of things.
Definitely
I think Weston
probably
makes it to state if Hutch is in the other side of the bracket. Weston's probably playing at state, so it's tricky, it's tough, it's unfortunate, but you're right, that is just tournament basketball.
That's the way it's matchup oriented. To an extent, and you get in the bigger tournaments in the bigger leagues, it's matchup oriented.
Right.
Well, we don't match up with this team very well. You got to hope for the luck of the draw. But in this kind of deal, once again, Hutch Central. My guess is when whoever all the other teams look around and said, okay, well, we know Hutch Central Christian's in our region. What bracket are they going to go in? Hopefully, we're not in that bracket.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's just the way it went last night. Once again, Weston losing 63-47, ending their year at 16-4. It's been a great fall and winter for Weston sports. 16-4 in the basketball court is nothing to shake a stick at. And of course, the great run that they made with Brett Clow, good friend of the program, as the football coach, winning a state championship. Pretty darn cool.
I also met at the
game.
game.
Coach Clow?
I met Coach Clow face to face.
Oh man, I was
meeting everyone.
To meet him in person.
Really?
Cool. Awesome.
I was meeting everyone. I met him. I met Coach Reese. I met Marty. I met everyone. It was great to.
It was a great day in Goodland for Max Gershon.
It was a little chaotic, but I got to meet a lot of people that I've heard and talked to, but I've never actually met face to face. So it was nice.
Fantastic. Well, that's awesome. There were other games that happened last night as well in high school basketball. In the same bracket, the 1A Division II bracket, you had Wallace County. They took down Western Plains 64-34. Mentioned the Wildcats will now get Hutch Central Christian in that sub-state title game on Saturday. That'll be played at Dighton. Speaking of Dighton, they advanced over Wheatland Grinnell 62-16. Thunderhawks in their season at 9-11. Dighton will face Hodgman County, who is the 3 seed. They beat Cheylin 59-26, ending the Cougars season at 10-10. On that bracket. And then in 1A D1 last night, you had Greeley County edge Lacrosse 51-49. A couple of great games here. 51-49, Greeley County beats Lacrosse. Jackrabbits will take on Central Plains in their sub-state title game Saturday. And then the 2 seed Quinter got past Decatur Community, the 6 seed, by 2 as well, 50-48. That puts the Bulldogs up against Lakeside Downs in the sub-state title game on Saturday. And congratulations to Coach Christ there at Quinter. I saw he got his 500th win last night. Congratulations, Coach Christ. So anyway, that was your high school basketball last night. It's real quick to explain tonight. There are no games tonight. The weather is not going to allow games to be played tonight. And there has been a lot of juggling that has gone on because of that. So no games tonight. So like Colby was supposed to host Russell, and Goodman was supposed to go to Ellsworth, and Hoxie boys were supposed to go to Plainville. That has all been pushed back to Thursday is when those games will be played. And because of that, there will be no Friday games down in Scott City or Sublette. That's the other thing. The 2A tournament in Sublette and the 3A tournament in Scott City, there will be no Friday games. There will only be Saturday games. So it was going to be originally 2 games on Friday for a sub-state title game, 2 girls sub-state title games on Friday, and then 2 sub-state title games on Saturday for the boys. Because of this weather moving things back, that will now be changed. Now you will play semifinals Wednesday, semifinals Thursday, have Friday off, and then Saturday they will play 4 consecutive games in Sublette and Scott City, 4 sub-state title games, 2 girls and 2 boys. Did I do a good enough job explaining that, you think?
I think so.
Okay.
It makes sense to me.
So that's how that will all go down.
None tonight. Games Saturday.
That's right. None tonight. Games Thursday. These games will be played tonight. Are scheduled now for Thursday, and the games that were scheduled for Friday are now going to be played on Saturday with the other 2 sub-state title games.
Right.
And that's what's going on tonight. So there you go. An update in high school basketball from last night. So no games tonight. We'll resume action tomorrow on Wednesday with a couple of games. You got Hoxie girls taking on Oakley inside the Colby Event Center, and then of course here inside the Max Jones Fieldhouse, Goodland and Colby meet for the 5th time for boys basketball here on Wednesday. Those are the next games coming up in our listening region. All right, college basketball last night. Kansas, I thought, battled very, very tough, but came up short, falling at number 3 Houston 65-59. Hunter Dickinson led the way with 17 points and 12 boards. David Coit, to me, was the real story. Dickey was great off the bench with 14. Kansas shot the ball 45% from the field, but really struggled to contain LJ Cryer. He had 22 points last night to lead the way for Houston. I thought it was a tight game throughout. Heck, Kansas even led at one point in time, I think by 8 or 9 early in the first half. But the Cougars led at half, and then the biggest thing to me was in the final minute. Did you watch the final minute, or were you just...
Yeah.
Okay, the final minute to me is what stood out the most, Max, was that Kansas got, I think, 3 consecutive defensive stops in the final minute, but could not rebound the basketball. Could not rebound it. They got completely punked by Houston in the paint. They were completely outmanned, out-physicaled, and outgunned in the paint, and that allowed the Houston to just burn that game away because they got a rebound, kick it back up top, they had to foul, they'd shoot free throws. That, to me, was... Otherwise, if Kansas grabs those misses, they go down the floor. They were only down by 2 after a Dickey Coit 3, and they had a chance to get a miss, get a board, and go down and possibly tie it or take the lead. They just could not get that going on the defensive side, rebounding-wise.
Here's the moment in my mind that changed the game, the kind of sequence, in my opinion, that changed it. And this is a tweet from Henry Greenstein, friend of the program who we got on
the program.
KU had the ball down 57-54 before back-to-back turnovers by Dickinson, a bad pass, and an offensive foul. Now it's Houston's ball with a 5-point lead and 3:50 to go. And it's been that way all year long. It's been that way all year long, where it's just quick turnovers. They come in bunches and they ruin your chance to win a basketball game. And it's been in late situations all year. And that's the biggest difference to me in the last 2 seasons compared to what Bill Self had with Jalen Wilson. The last time this KU team, I really had a lot of faith in the KU team, was with Jalen Wilson on the court. Because late in the game, who do you give the basketball to? You give the basketball to your number one scorer in Jalen Wilson. It doesn't work when you try to go inside with Hunter and he's your late game guy. It's not effective. It doesn't work. You need a wing that can score consistently late in the games, or a guard. And Jalen Wilson was that guy, and they haven't had it since. Those are situations where Jalen Wilson's going to hit a big shot for you. He's not there. Those guys aren't there. And it is mind-blowing to me that you can have a point guard who will play 34 minutes, shoot the ball twice, and have 2 assists and 3 rebounds and 2 points. That is mind-blowing in the day and age that we are living in right now in the sport of basketball. You cannot have that. And I know Diggy scored a lot and helped out a lot, and he should be starting, in my opinion. And I just don't get it. 34 minutes. It's got to cut down, because unfortunately you need to score the basketball. You score 59 points, you're not going to win any games. I know they were close in this one, but you're not going to win any games. So it's been a lack of adjustment again, continuously just riding with the seniors. You can see Bill getting more, angry and pissed off at these guys throughout the season goes on. But at the same time,
it's redder.
it's getting, but it's, it used to always be red. And now it's like, it's just that overall sense of like, this is what we have. Let's try it again next year, kind of thing that I've been getting for the last 3 weeks of basketball from Bill. And I mean, it saddens me to look at this box score and see 5 minutes for AJ Storr and 0 for 1 from the field. I mean, what on earth? Ross, you watched him play Nebraska last year with Wisconsin. Could you, in anyone's right mind, imagine this is what happened to AJ Storr?
No, it blows my mind as well. But I'm actually starting to wonder if Greg Gard, who is the head coach for Wisconsin, knows something that we don't offensively. There was, for a long time, Wisconsin basketball, and this is a little side journey with Ross, has been known for being a team of great defense. That was they were built on that with Bo Ryan and things of that sort. They played amazing defense. But the last 2 years, Greg Gard has had AJ Storr, who was just unbelievable 2 years ago. And then this year, he has a young man that played just down the road at Colorado State. Gosh darn it, why can't I think of his name right now? He's the freaking Big Ten player there. John Tonji. Tonji has filled the role of AJ Storr and has been just an absolute beast So I'm starting to wonder if Greg Gard, first of all, knows how to recruit this superstar player and then knows how to let them play.
Well,
I'm not lying. The AJ Storr of last year is the John Tonji of this year at Wisconsin.
Right.
It's
Well, I think it's
unbelievable.
also that offense fits more to having one player score a lot of points and put up high numbers.
And maybe that's what it is.
And KU does not have that offense, and it's just AJ just didn't figure it out, and neither did Bill. And it's kind of heartbreaking. I was really excited about AJ Storr coming into this year, and it just.
Do you think he'll be around next year?
At KU?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. I don't know.
I mean, this is his 4th year in 4 years.
Okay. He is done. Okay.
Or maybe it's his 3rd year, and maybe it's his 3rd school in 3 years.
He's a junior.
He's a junior. 3rd school in 3 years. Sorry.
So he
third
could come
school in
back
3
next
years.
year.
Why? Why would he come back next year?
Money?
Unless Rylan leaves.
Money?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, he's just dancing on the bench with $1 million in his bank account that we paid him. So it's just like, it's just.
To me, though, even though he led the team in scoring and rebounding, to me that game was about Hunter Dickinson. He got absolutely owned in the paint.
Yeah.
I mean, Jawan Roberts had his way with Hunter Dickinson inside last night. I mean, just watching him get now. Houston, they're going to play a very physical type of basketball game. That's how they play. And if the officials are going to let them play that way, it's going to be really hard for the opposition. But I don't care who you are. Hunter Dickinson just got owned in the paint last night. And honestly, if you want to look at the stats, when Hunter Dickinson does not have a great game, that's usually when KU falters.
Oh, Hunter needs to drop in the tournament. Hunter needs at least 32 every single game if they want to win.
32? Wow, maybe 25.
You can add 20. I mean, unless they're playing Houston or a team that doesn't have a good off like Houston. I'm not huge on Houston.
No, Houston's never going to be a great offensive team. They're
never going to, which
they're
means
a
to me,
defensive powerhouse.
Which means to me they're not going to be a great tournament team because
No,
there's
I would
teams that
agree.
can outshoot them.
I would agree.
There are so many teams in the tournament that will just shoot and shoot and shoot and score 80 points and outscore you. And if KU wants to score 75 to 80 points, Hunter is going to have 30 points. Who else is going to score on this team? There's no one else that will score on this team besides Hunter Dickinson.
A stat before we get to break. Joe Tillery is going to join us here in just a few moments from Heartland College. First, we continue this conversation with Joe about Kansas basketball. But this is from Sam McDowell, the Kansas City Star. Since November of 26 this year, Kansas is now 1-8 against teams in the Ken Palm top 49. So playing against the best competition, they are 1-8.
Football school.
And once again, I have to admit, this record that I see Kansas have is ridiculous. 19-11 and 10-9 in conference play. And I'm not saying they will, but if they lose at home on senior day, which I think is a long shot because it's senior day, they would be 10-10 in conference.
Yeah.
That is, you don't ever see that
for
Kansas basketball. That is ridiculous.
I mean, I don't see why not. This has been the worst season in my lifetime of KU basketball. It has been.
That says something for sure.
It does.
It does.
It's bad. But it's also the highest payroll, which I know it's different, but this is arguably going into this year.
Payroll,
a lot of people thought
basketball history too.
A lot of people thought this was one of the more talented rosters that had been put together for KU in a while. And now it's turned into the worst KU team in my 20-year life.
Money is not going to solve. I mean, just because you're going to pay a bunch of guys a whole bunch of money does not mean you're going to have success. You hope that's the case.
Right.
It does not mean that.
No, obviously not. Obviously
We'll get more thoughts on this with Joe Tillery. He's waiting patiently. Joey, we'll be with you in just a second. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Joe Tillery joins Heartland College Sports. We'll talk more on Kansas basketball and the season has been. We'll get some thoughts as well in the Big 12 and some other interesting news in college sports with our man Joe Tillery. That's next here on a Tuesday edition of the Morning Blitz.
Big savings are waiting at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Get a 2025 GMC Sierra 2500 with 4.9% financing for 60 months, or drive off in a 25 GMC Sierra 1500 with $2,750 in rebates or 2.9% financing for 48 months. Plus, don't miss your chance to save big on their last hail vehicle, a 24 GMC Sierra 2500 Pro Diesel, originally just over $67,000, now just over $56,000. Deals this good won't last. Hurry to Hurl Chevrolet GMC today or shop online at hurlchev.com.
It's time for a check of the markets with the Anderson Trade Group on the Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio Network.
Good morning, this is Kate Thompson with the Anderson Trade Group. Today is Tuesday, March 4th. Happy Mardi Gras.
On the overnight last time, me corn down 7 3/4 at 448.5. July down 7 3/4 at 456. September down 4 1/4 at 440 3/4. December corn down 4 1/4 at 447. May soybeans down 13 1/4 on the overnight at 998 1/4. July down 12.5 at 1013 1/4. August down 13.5 at 1011.5. September beans down 13.5 at $10. Chicago wheat, the May contract lower 9 1/4 on the overnight at 538.5. July down 8 cents at 553 1/4. September down 7 1/4 at 569 3/4. December soft wheat down 5 cents at 593 1/4. Kansas City wheat, the May contract lower 9 cents on the overnight at 553. July down 8 3/4 at 567 1/4. September down 8 3/4 at 582.5. December hard wheat down 8 1/4 at 604. On the stock market this morning, the Dow down $102 to 43,148. The S&P down 36 at 5,824. Gold higher $33 an ounce at 2,933. Crude oil down 82 cents a barrel at 67.55. If you have any questions about marketing grain or would like to talk about risk management options, give our Colorado office a call. John Hanke or John Stiles at 970-744-4484. Or in our Kansas City office, myself, Tom Pluto, Jared Law, or Tyler Ghosh at 913-748-3000.
The Anderson Trade Group, proud market partners with Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio. Find out more at andersongrain.com. The risk of loss through trading futures and or options is substantial, and each investor and or trader must consider whether this is a suitable investment. Past performance, whether actual or indicated, is not indicative of future results. The Anderson Trade Group has no guarantee that the advice given will result in profitable trades.
LivestockMarket.com offers all the tools you need for a successful production sale. The easy-to-use online platform makes it super easy to take bids from anywhere in the world. Buyers can place pre-bids and real-time bids, browse your sales catalog, and watch your sale broadcast live. LivestockMarket.com is also the ideal platform for private treaty sales and timed online-only auctions. There's no easier way to find buyers for cattle, horses, sheep, and hay. Sell on your terms today with LivestockMarket.com.
Help maximize your yield potential and savings with 0% financing on leading fungicides from BASF. You can't beat 0%, especially when you could save big on consistent performing fungicides like Revitec fungicide and Veltima fungicide until March 15, 2025. 0% financing means keeping more in your wallet for better ROI. Talk to your BASF retailer today about the Grower Finance Program. Subject to credit approval, terms and conditions. See BASF Grower Finance Program for details. Always read and follow label directions.
Quick hits, bold takes, and all the action.
I'll take that action.
Welcome back to the Morning Blitz.
So we're having some interesting weather here at the station. So I have a window off here to my left, and I can't see out of it because it's completely covered in wet snow. So I can't see out it. If you can kind of see behind me, you can see, as you can see in my window right here, you can see the snow blowing by. You can
it's just
jetting
right by.
That's right. It's like we're going into light speed here in Goodland or something like that at this point in time. Plenty of moisture coming through the area. I've seen we've already had north of Rulton about 1.20 inches of moisture already this morning. I've had some half-inch reports or right around that already, and it's just going to continue to snow. And heck, it's so windy here, Joe. Joe Tillery joins us on the Pearl Chevrolet GMC Vision. It's so windy here. The door for the building is opening on its own, and it's got one of those little ding bells on it. And so I'm just like, what is going on out there? I had to go lock the front door so it quit dinging. It's ridiculous.
That's brutal. That's a brutal start to the day.
We're having quite the day, to say the least, Joe, weather-wise, here in Northwest Kansas. Blizzards and all kinds of stuff. After it was 70 degrees yesterday, you could have gone outside and ran in shorts and a tank top, and now you're in blizzard weather. Welcome to Western Kansas.
Yep. Gotta love it.
Yep, gotta love it. How's life treating you? Doing well?
Doing pretty good. I'm back home in Kansas City for the time being. My Wi-Fi might be a little worse. Fair warning, it's the folks' Wi-Fi. So I'm going to preface that right now.
I noticed we're not in the green room, as we know, the Joe Tillery green room. So, yeah.
We are not. The green room TM, it's trademarked and everything. But it's good, man. It's good to be back in Kansas. Obviously, the 180 from 70 degrees to pouring rain, about to be a blizzard, is an interesting 180. But, that's where I grew up. I love it. Love it to an extent.
That's all right. No problems there. Joe, what is your thoughts? You heard our conversation. We were talking about Bill Self and Kansas and the record they have, the 19-11, the 10-9 in conference play. What are your thoughts on the Jayhawks this year?
Well, it is an interesting situation because clearly there's talent on the roster. I mean, nobody disagrees that. You see AJ Storr, you see Rylan Griffin, you see Zeke Mayo, Hunter Dickinson, and obviously the team's good enough to be the preseason #1 team. Granted, that says what a lot of voters think. We've done the same thing for Big 12 football where we pick, all these different teams, and then Oklahoma State goes 0-9 or 0-11 in conference play. With Kansas basketball, it's interesting because they have such a high consistency of success. Like every single season, even when it's like, this doesn't feel like a group that could win a national championship, they're still getting to the tournament, having a good first weekend, and then, maybe they get to the Sweet 16, maybe they don't. But realistically, you've always kind of trusted Bill Self to weather the storm. Obviously, the last 2 years have been a bit of a different story. And I don't know that I look at it and say it's a Bill Self issue, but when you look at college basketball as a whole right now, I just don't think there's a consistent landscape, or like there's not enough of a this is how you manage winning basketball in the era of the transfer portal, because you can add all this talent, and if you can't piece it together, whether it be just one piece that sticks out. I mean, you saw a guy leave Kansas State after 7 games. When you can't fit these things together, it can be a real issue no matter how much talent you have, and I think that's what's happening for Kansas right now.
It's just been amazing to me to watch, like you said, have all this talent and not being able to piece together. But, I mean, the same thing can be – I mean, Max made a comment right before we went to break. Talks about, it's the highest paid roster in Kansas history. You could say the same thing about Kansas State. It's probably the highest paid roster they've ever had for basketball, and they are having just on the same kind of level. They're having just about as bad a season as Kansas is.
Absolutely. And I think the difference there, though, is that obviously we don't know where Jerome Tang's baseline is quite yet, because we've had so many polarizing seasons that it's tough to justify, is this going to be a typical Jerome Tang team? Is this the reality? Is this a standard? With Kansas, it's a little more perplexing to me because they've just been at this consistent mark where they continually go up. Kansas State, you're kind of just fluid at the moment, but it is, a situation where you're paying Coleman Hawkins as the highest paid player in college basketball. It's alleged, but it feels like it's pretty confirmed at this point. And you look at all of that, like, if you don't get the right guys in the portal, you're not doing the right things. And I know that's such a general statement, but when you look at K-State's roster, the players that have played the best this season, Coleman Hawkins has been banged up the last couple of games, so it's kind of, he's been Coleman Hawkins, but he hasn't quite been himself to a certain degree, especially as the primary guy for K-State. Doug McDaniel's been hot and cold, inconsistent, but their best players that have shown up consistently are guys that played at Cal State Fullerton and David Gasson that returned from last year, who's taken a massive step forward. It's just a thing where you can't quite count on the people you expect to count on, and then other guys explode out of nowhere, and it's just like, dude, how do I build my starting 5 if I have 3 guys on the bench that I thought were going to be starters getting 30-plus minutes a game versus, guys that you thought would return as a backup big or a 20-minute big for an energy guy, and then they're starting and playing 35 minutes a game. So it's just it's a weird situation all around college basketball right now.
Another thing that we were talking about before the break was that KU has the chance to finish the season 10-10 in Big 12 play, and it kind of had me thinking, it poses the question, in your mind, do you think the Big 12 is better than you expected or worse than you expected going into this season?
It's a great question, but strangely enough, I feel like they're not as good as they have been in years past, though I know Houston's at the top of the league. They've been Houston.
Yeah.
It feels like a down year, and still teams that are, typically doing really well are struggling. Like, you're seeing the SEC have a ton of teams in the tournament, and I imagine the Big 12 will have about 8 teams in the tournament if I had to take a guess. Pending Baylor, pending West Virginia. I feel like West Virginia's set. Baylor's been nosediving lately, but, you have the teams that are typically at the top that just aren't playing like that. That being said, you also have Texas Tech, who has been incredible under Grant McCasland, that has completely sparked everything about Texas Tech basketball, and they've gotten back to that point of where they were a couple years ago under Chris Beard. And it's just an interesting situation. But, yeah, you don't have as much consistency from the teams at the top. Obviously, Kansas not being in the top 3 is a weird reality, but Baylor's down, Kansas is down. Iowa State, even though they've looked incredible, they've had their laps as well. I mean, they lose to K-State, who, candidly, we are not a very good team. But it's just it's a weird situation in the Big 12, but I do feel like it's actually a down year from where we're at.
Why do you think the SEC has taken such a big leap this year?
Genuinely, and this is going to sound a little bit hater talk here, so fair warning. I think it's more so like there's a vacancy of space with the Big 12 having such a down year. There is so much more like opportunities at the top. You don't have Kansas being a top 5 team. You don't have Iowa State consistently up there. You have Houston, who's Houston. But outside of that, like, you don't get the Baylors that are in that 9 to 15 range. There's just so much more vacancy or real estate for other conferences to move in. And I do think they're a physical conference. I mean, it's not night and day different from the Big 12 in the sense that they're athletic, they're fast-paced, it's transition-based. But the way the SEC plays basketball, the way the Big 12 plays basketball, it's incredible to watch. It makes for some great games. I think back to the Texas A&M Houston game from the tournament last year. That was an incredible game, one of my favorites of the tournament. But
Yeah.
it just feels more so like what other conferences aren't doing, and the SEC holding shape of, okay, we're going to fill the void, or the ACC might plop a team in there, or the Big Ten or something like that. But it feels more about what the Big 12 is not doing at the moment.
That's the other thing. The ACC is horrific. I mean, it's worse. It's worse than the Big 12. And so, you've got the Big 12 down, the ACC's down, the Big 10's probably right where it usually is. I'd say it's probably status quo. And the SEC is taking advantage. Here's the other thing, too, about the SEC. There was a few years ago where SEC basketball was really bad. I mean, it was kind of the laughing stock. And they made it a point, Max, to invest in basketball.
Right.
They were the king of football. They made it a point to invest in basketball, meaning bringing in bigger name coaches like Bruce Pearl, like Rick Barnes, like all these other ones. That investment is paying off now, and that's why you're seeing the SEC be so big right now.
Yeah, and so that goes into, kind of another question about this SEC compared to Big 12. If you were making a bracket right now, who do you trust more? Some Big 12 teams that have maybe been there a little bit more than SEC teams, or these SEC teams that are at the top of the seeding, but maybe haven't had the experience?
That's a great question. Oof, that's a really tough one. I mean, it depends which Big 12 team I'm looking at, obviously, but I still worry a little bit about Texas Tech, almost for the same reasons the SEC, where they don't quite have, at least under Grant McCasland, the postseason success of where do we base this? For Houston, I wouldn't worry. I could see Houston absolutely going in and beating Alabama out of nowhere, just being Houston aggressive on defense, though their offensive scheme doesn't, it leaves a lot to be desired, even though they're talented. But knowing Kelvin Sampson, the way his teams play, they could always be a Final Four team every single season. But, you kind of have to ride the hot hand. I think Auburn's a great basketball team. They could be very easily, the best team in the field, obviously. But there's just so much more consistency at the top right now for the SEC, and it really has hurt the Big 12 this season.
Joe Tillery continue to be our guest on the Hurl Chevrolet GMC video stream from Heartland College Sports, our friend Joe Tillery. I think another thing, we were having this conversation about the, Joe, you're actually, as Max asked the question about, who do you trust more? Once again, we answered this question a little bit ago, Max. I mean, it's matchup based. That's when you get to the tournament, it's all matchup based. I mean, you could be a great team. You could be Houston. You could be a number 1 seed, but you're going to play the best 3-point shooting team in the country.
Right.
Okay. That might cause some issues. I mean, you
look at it.
That could be in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, you look back to last season, and this is a game that worked out, but Kansas and Samford, I mean, Max knows, that is not a good matchup for Kansas. A team that struggles from the 3-point line and struggles to defend it, and Samford, who shoots 8,000 of them per game. So definitely, it is all matchup based. You get the right, the right people in the right spots, you can make that run, but you get to tournament time, and it's just who's the opportunity in front of us, who's the next team we have to tackle with, or who is the next team we have to tackle, and it's just it's always so matchup based every year.
So who are some teams in your mind in the Big 12 that you are most confident could make it to the deep round? We talked about Houston, but who are some other teams maybe that people wouldn't expect that are kind of sleeper picks for the Big 12?
I tell you what, I think BYU is really, really good. They're a good basketball team. Obviously, they've got some stars there. Kevin Young's a good coach. He's coming from the NBA route. I don't think anybody doubts his ability. Next year has the number 1 overall player in the class. But for this year specifically, you've got stars around the court. And guys like Cannon Catchings, who are studs, obviously he's banged up a little bit right now, haven't had to have the impact because the roster is so deep. If you look at their rotation, they're 9 guys deep, where their best player, Richie Saunders, will play 30 minutes, and then everybody else on the roster might be 24 to 27 minutes. So everybody's got relatively fresh legs. It's been the Baylor model from a couple years ago. Obviously now such a short bench because of injury, but I think BYU could be a really big surprise for people. If Iowa State gets healthy, I don't think it's fair to call them a sleeper team. I don't think I should, but the way I see their team, if they get their guys back, because Keyshawn Gilbert's banged up right now. Obviously, earlier in the season, Milan Momcilovic was hurt, but they seem to be not peaking at the right time, but I don't doubt a TJ Otzelberger-led team. I think they're one of the best teams in the Big 12 when they're healthy, and I do think they have the opportunity to hoist that trophy.
Joe, I got another question before I go back to our original comments about Bill Self and Jerome Tang and building their rosters. Do you feel like after a year like this, and for Tang, honestly, you can say it for Self the last couple of years, because honestly, even last year probably wasn't on the same level that Kansas is used to. After these previous 2 years of trying to rebuild entirely through the portal mostly, do you think that it's going to change the way they're going to maybe build their rosters going forward even still in this day of the portal, in this era of the portal. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it will change it a little bit, less than people actually admit. When you look at Kansas and Kansas State, I think there's two different approaches. Bill Self's going to have a high-end 4-star, a 5-star kid that's going to be a one-and-done NBA guy just about every season, even in down years. I mean, Darren Peterson might be the best player in basketball next year, so I understand that for sure. With Kansas's model, you keep a guy like Floyd Badunga if you can. The change that I've seen for Kansas has been your one-and-done guys aren't clear-cut, defined one-and-done guys every single season. Johnny Furphy could have very easily come back last season, been a star for Kansas this year, and I don't think anybody doubts that. But what you're starting to see with that team is the high-end guys on Bill Self's roster that are the staples of consistency when it comes to the historic program it is. Like, you had Devontae Graham for years. You had Frank Mason for years. Now you have DeJuan Harris, who isn't looking for a shot. He isn't really facilitating as of last night. His defense is taking a step back. KJ Adams is incredibly limited. I think it really comes down to who are your 2 or 3 staple pieces from every single roster. And this is something I'll tie into K-State, but you look at it, continuity is king. I don't doubt that. Even on a losing roster, continuity is king. Not because it takes, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but because it does take so long for your roster to gel. But with K-State, after last season, they started over with 3 returners, and 2 of those guys didn't play significant minutes hardly at all. You had David Gasson, who was the one guy that really saw action. The other 2 didn't play hardly at all with Michaela Bridge and Taj Manning. You need consistency. And if you want to find young guys in the transfer portal to be your pseudo freshmen, that's the way that I think it's going to change for people. Because when you look back to Tang's first start, Cam Carter was a guy who was a stud for Kansas State, but they found him on the bench at Mississippi State, hardly playing at all in terms of minutes per game. When you find young guys in college basketball that are ready to work and be developed, those can be your pseudo freshmen, because I do think the freshman classes have ultimately, like, not taking a step back in talent, but just in the overall effectiveness of what a freshman can and can't do. Like, outside the top 20, or unless you're Christian Anderson from Texas Tech, you're just not having immediate impact. So the way I look at the portal changing for both teams is find 2 to 3 guys that you feel like, okay, you'll be back, they'll be our flag-bearing guys, and then complement them with both stars around the portal in theory, because you never quite know what you're going to get, and then young guys through the portal outside of just the freshman class that will be sophomores averaging 2 or 3 points here, but do have, like, okay, we liked him out of high school, we liked him here, let's get him here. He's going to be our new type of freshman as a redshirt freshman, as a sophomore. So I think those will kind of be major changes for most college basketball teams.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Going back to your point about KU, like, I mean, now after this season with DeJuan, KJ, and Hunter, those quote unquote staple guys that have been around for so long, I mean, this is now entering kind of an era that's I haven't seen for a while, where there's not going to be staple guys for at least next year. We're going to have to find out who those next staple guys will be. I mean, even going back to, Perry Ellis and the Relaford brothers and Jeff Withey. I mean, those guys, those are staple guys that's been around forever with Bill. And now, who is the next guy going to be? It's hard to have those guys now when you're getting one and dones, and then you're also getting transfer portal. So it's definitely going to be something interesting to look at. It's a good point I hadn't really thought of.
It is. It's also.
Go ahead, Joe.
Sorry,
my bad.
one more quick point before I get out of here. No, you're good. I think it might actually be a good thing for Kansas too.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this is a good time for things to change, because a guy that I think, doesn't get forget from Kansas fans. I know he had a tough freshman year, but Elmarco Jackson coming off injury. These are guys that, like, have enough time to develop from a leadership perspective, even if they're not on the court. I think he might be one guy that I feel like Kansas fans are going to get to the spot of, this can be our, not necessarily all end all be all leader type guy, because I think Peterson and Floyd Badunga will be probably your best 2 players based off of what the portal yields, because you never quite know. But I do know those guys are going to be star NBA players too. But I do think a guy like Elmarco Jackson can kind of hold that flame together to keep the core of, like, what the next steps are, right?
He is Joe Tillery of Heartland College Sports. Joe, I could talk to you for a whole nother half hour, my friend, but we're going to have to let you go. We'll have to do this again soon. Welcome back to the area. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll catch up soon. All right, be well.
Sounds good, boys. Thank you for having me.
Once again, great stuff there from Joe Tillery of Heartland College Sports. Okay, we'll take a break, come back, wrap things up with some big news out of college football and the ACC, and also some news from baseball world as well, coming up next here on the Morning Blitz.
At Nextech Wireless, we're committed to delivering more than just quality wireless service. We're here to provide you with exceptional customer support every step of the way. Experience our service risk-free for 30 days. Plus, for a limited time, get an iPhone 16 Pro Max on us when you buy one with our best plan and handset protection. Nextech Wireless, connecting Kansans.
New year, new projects, and new deals at Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware. Start 2025 with a bang by tackling those home improvements. Refresh your space with vibrant Benjamin Moore paint or stock up on storage totes and shelves, perfect for organizing. Lumber prices are down, making it easier to tackle your next big project. Keep warm while you grill year-round with their top-notch grills and smokers from Traeger and Weber. And don't let the snow slow you down. Check out the great selection of snowblowers from Ego and Toro. It's Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware with locations in Goodland and Colby, your partner for a productive new year.
If you're shopping for a banking institution, visit with Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, and Quinter, Kansas. The Equity Bank is heavily invested in local business and activities contributing in many ways back to their community. Their employees are involved with many organizations and area events. Plus, a lot of experience comes with that staff. You'll find valuable local assistance when you bank at the Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, Quinter, and other locations in Western Kansas. The Equity Bank, member FDIC.
The Farmer State Bank of Oakley has been financing agriculture since the day we opened our doors. Hello, this is Corbin, and we are proud to be your locally owned partner in ag. We invite you to come and visit with us when you need to purchase new or used farm equipment, or need any type of agriculture or business loan. We have the knowledge, experience, and financial resources to keep you growing. The Farmer State Bank of Oakley, a tradition of community and agriculture for over 115 years. Member FDIC.
All the sports you love, all in one place.
Ooh, this will come in handy.
This is the Morning Blitz.
Thanks again to Joe Tiller for joining the show. I mean, the best part about Joe is, he's kind of a Kansas State expert guy. His passion falls for his Wildcats, but he can talk about all different types of things. He went pretty deep even on the Kansas basketball bench there for the most part, so...
I completely forgot about Marco Jackson, but that is true. And I was, he wasn't somebody I was a huge fan of last year, but he
wasn't great last year. But that's the way it goes. Before I think we may have to push this story to tomorrow because I think we could way too long-winded on it. But there's this fascinating story. There's going to be a vote happening today, with Florida State, Clemson, and the ACC, and I'm just going to give the cliff notes of a version. We can maybe dive into it more tomorrow.
Okay,
but. Florida State and Clemson are going to vote today on an agreement that would ultimately result in the settlement of 4 ongoing lawsuits. Remember Clemson and Florida State, they're not happy about being the ACC. They're in a deal locked into like 2036, and they don't like this because, they've got, they're losing out on money that they could be getting if they went to a different conference. So it's kind of keeping them locked in. And anyway, they're going to vote on this today. And here are some of the key details according to Pete Thamel. 40% of TV money distributed evenly amongst the all ACC schools, while 60% by ratings-based formula over the last 5 years. So if you're drawing good ratings, you're going to get more money. And the top ACC earners could net more than $15 million, while some schools will see a deduction annual payout of about $7 million. So you're seeing possibly a $22 million flux between the bottom schools and the top schools. So between like your Clemson's and your Wake Forest, for example, $22 million difference. And they're also going to lower the cost to exit the league in 29-30, expected to drop below $100 million. So within the next 5 years, they're expected that you can exit the league for less than $100 million, because right now I think it's over $200 million to get that done. Tomorrow, we'll dive into this a little bit more, but I'll tell you why I believe that this vote today, if it does get approved, which I think it probably will, if it does get approved, Max, I'm going to tell you why I think it's going to be absolutely massive for college sports. I'll tell you why tomorrow's show. I think this whole vote could set precedent for something. I'll explain it better on tomorrow's program.
Do I have to tune into tomorrow's show?
Are you going to tune into tomorrow's show?
I have to tune into tomorrow's show.
Hopefully that catches your turn. I'll tell you why it'll impact everybody from Kansas to Kansas State to Colorado, Nebraska, Oklahoma State. It doesn't matter. It will impact everybody. I'll tell you why tomorrow. It's a tease for tomorrow's show. It could be very, very big. All right, we got to get to the walk-off.
And back lifts his ball deep to right. How about a walk-off Brady? Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on to New England. They win it on the First play of overtime. Mahomes swings it. It's there. Hardman. Jackpot. Kansas City.
Well, old Moose is going to be coming back to the Royals and retiring a Royal, which is how it should be, right?
My favorite Moose moment was I was at the game actually on that side of the field when he against the Orioles in the ALDS in 2014 when he went into the dugout suite.
Yeah,
went over the rail. I was at that game, and that's my favorite Moose moment. I think that's most people's favorite Moose moment. He was incredible. So fun. I mean, there was always a guy that would drive around at the games with the big moose antlers, and just such an awesome player. But he is signing a one-day contract and will retire a Royal before the home game against the Detroit Tigers on March 31st, a day game, and time to celebrate for Mike Moustakas, and then he'll be back later this year to do the 2015 10-year anniversary. Can't believe it's
May
been 10 years.
31st. May
31st. Sorry, May 31st.
Will happen is the Mike Moustakas Day. The funny thing is, I remember, this is how old I am, Max. I remember going to college. I had a friend who was a big baseball guy and a humongous Royals fan. And this is when the Royals were stinking up. And he goes,
"Oh yeah,
you just wait. They've got these guys coming up. This Hosmer guy, this Moustakas guy. These guys are coming up, and they're going to be so good." And I'm like, okay, whatever. Well, we'll see what happens. Now they've retired.
Now they're retired.
I'm
it's
old.
Crazy.
I just remember that guy. I remember his name was Nate Moore in college. He said, "Watch out, these two guys are going to be good." I'm like, okay, we'll see.
They were good times. Good times.
Real quickly, I thought this was ridiculous. You see this story about the Dallas Mavericks?
I did not.
They're going to raise ticket prices. They've announced to fans they're going to raise ticket prices. So you've traded Luka. Kyrie gets hurt last night, and you announce you're going to raise ticket prices.
Good for them. Why not?
Can Maverick fans take?
Why not just go all out? If you're going to make the fans hate you, I mean, just move to Vegas now. Just move to Vegas. That's the next step, right? Is move to Vegas.
Move to Vegas. I guess so. Blizzard warning today. Be safe. We'll see you tomorrow here on the Blitz.